week's Talking Derry City podcast, where Simon, we've got a new sponsor involved, KRA Limited. Shane O'Doherty has come on board. It's great to see, and obviously Shane, we know ourselves as a big Derry fan, father's a legend, Tony, at the club. He's also got KRA Celtic playing in the Northwest Junior League. They start their pre-season campaign this week against Derry. They're having to play games at Walton Park this year regarding pre-season, because the Swally Stadium they normally play isn't available because of the Ford Cup and stuff. But no, great to have a Derry City fan coming on board.
Brilliant, thanks to Shane. Also thanks to the Shannon Hotel as our sponsor as well too. And the Shannon, just a shout out, they've got their spring summer sale still going, where you 50% off your bed and breakfast. They also have a summer midweek sale for like the hot tub experience. It's a Tuesday to Thursday, €50 per person, and it gives you like a 30-minute private hot tub experience and an hour and a half in the thermal suite. Absolutely brilliant, private terrace and stuff like that. So it's definitely worth although it feels like we're in a sauna right now. This office is absolutely roasting.
There's no doubt about it.
We are wearing our Derry City jerseys because Derry City are back.
No, we need to calm down. We're back. I seen a massive Jekyll and Hyde performances in the last weekend. I was in Galway and I was at Tala, and if you had left Galway on Friday night the way I did and thought Derry City would get anything at Tala, well, that Derry City squad would get anything at Tala on Monday night, I would have just laughed in your face. And they proved us all wrong, because the performance they put on Monday night was exceptional in terms of giving their all, what you want, commitment, desire, everything that you want there. But more luck, they might have nicked it. I know Stephen Bradley wasn't too impressed. They thought James McLean should have been sent off. He was booked earlier with a Graham Burke tackle. He's saying then Dylan Watts, it was push, should have been a penalty, should have been a red card. My response is sort of, well, your keeper was could have been sent off by Mickey Duffy, not if he's outside handling it, but
there's
no doubt about it. But I suppose instead of going straight to Rovers and the positive, unfortunately we have to go to the negative, because the Friday night in Galway, after coming in, they had beaten Bows, you're thinking, here we go. But unfortunately it was back to type, and it was just crap.
You're right, back to type, because that's the story of the season. You get one big one, you're raising your game for the big ones. We had the Shamrock Rovers match at Celtic Park. It's a turning around the season. No, it wasn't. And and it was mentioned afterwards, that after the Galway game and then after the Shamrock Rovers game as well too, in the interviews afterwards, where Tiernan basically referenced the fact that they raise their games against the bigger teams. They're playing better football against the bigger teams and getting the big results. It's the teams, the so-called lesser teams, which they're no lesser than us at the minute, but they're struggling with them, and it's whether it's that low block and they can't break them down because it's so lethargic and so predictable. And that's the way it was. It was a totally different story at Shamrock Rovers, but Galway was a low ebb, a very, very low ebb. And after the second half performance against Bows in particular, they produced that in Galway, and they lose. We're hearing them like they did lose the fight. They lost the fight everywhere. There was no desire. You were down at a cave, so you could probably get a better picture of what they were doing on the pitch and the body language and everything else. But from watching the TV, it was very worrying.
Well, look, you get into Galway, Pearse Stadium, you're going, right, what's the pitch going to be like, and all these type of things. What we had, obviously, Celtic Park, pitch was immaculate. Pitch was really good. I was actually chatting to Conor McCormick after the game, and he says that they had watered it on Wednesday, and then it rained on Thursday, it rained on Friday morning, so he says, right, we don't need to water. And if anybody's seen, Friday afternoon onwards, it's been unbelievable weather, so that's why it was probably a bit bobbly. But no, it was first class, unlike Derry, who were not. And you had about 50 or 60 fans down, dotted around and the stand where the seated stand at Pearse Stadium. And the first goal, in my opinion, sort of summed it up. Cameron Dummigan doesn't get in tight enough. No. They try and block the cross. And Kevin DeSantos might as well just be sitting beside me up in the press box, because he did nothing, and Boyce just held him. Literally, he didn't even jump, just held him off and headed it in. And you just went, boy, seriously, you can't be doing that, like, you know what I mean? And It was
I know
just
Beach
so
was
bad.
The sun was on shining in his
Aye,
face, but
not blaming Beats as much as I say the defending leading up to it wasn't good enough.
I know you've that you can't let the cross come on so easily, like with Cameron.
But you also had another sort of it looked like anyway. Tiernan had sort of changed things up again. Where you're going right, you're playing 4 at the back against Bows. Let's go. Second half is brilliant. We'll go down here, and he's playing 3 at the back, and he's playing Kevin DeSantis as a wing back and Brandon Fleming as a wing back. Now, 2 goals came down that right hand side where DeSantis, and it would have been Connor Barr would have been the right sided centre back. The second goal is just as bad. Connor Barr's come on to try and win a header. I think he may have even won it, to be fair, but it falls in the early. Lovely wee clip pass, but the clip pass is and the acres of room because Connor Barr's come out and because DeSantis, as an actual defender, he doesn't know to cover ground, and watch this goes thanks very much.
It's a nice finish.
2-0, and it was game over. Like it was the start of the second half where Tierney's made the change, bringing on Liam Boyce. Fortunately, James Clark has had to go off injured.
Yeah.
You're thinking, right, 1-0 down, let's get going. Bang, 2-0. You could have been right in your intro. That's how bad it was.
Like obviously Mickey gets a goal back and
Yeah.
stuff, but for me, I thought that kind of wasn't a reflection of the match itself, because Galway were fully deserving of a comprehensive one in my view.
Well, one should have had a hat-trick, because he had a header from like 6 yards, free header, and he heads it wide, doesn't hit the target. That was an unbelievable chance just before half time.
He always has a bit of luck about it. Not even a bit of luck. He's always brilliant performances against Derry and scored.
He bullied Derry's
bullies them,
back three. There's no doubt about it.
And like the piece with Patrick McLean afterwards, where he was basically saying, I think he was like they were all feeling the same. Like they were all downbeat and scratching their heads and going. Especially Tiernan saying like you can't coach desire. I'm sure that doesn't go down well in the dressing room where they're sort of looking around, going, well, they can't really argue about that too much in fairness. But Patrick was saying we're not too good to go down here. We're looking around over our shoulder here, and we're perilously close. They were Sligo Rovers and the likes of Drogheda and then obviously Galway creeping up on us after that. So. It was a bad old night. It
was, and to be fair, I interviewed Patrick too, and he was very honest as he always is. And you're right. He was saying, listen, it has been mentioned in there as in the change room. We're not too good to get down here. We need to get our act together and get going. And as he says, like the fans don't want to hear it. We can't keep saying the same stuff like a broken record. He says, but. The only thing that you can do in these situations is work hard, and then it'll hopefully turn for you. And I know, as he says, fans are scunnered here working hard, on big Monday to Thursday, yada yada. But then we can sort of fast forward. Then they go into Tala, and as I say, I went down the road by Eric White and Gareth McGlynn, and like there wasn't much sort of optimism in that card. You were going to get a positive result. To be honest,
I think your status on social media was just going to get messy.
Well, it was. We managed to score 2, and we've just seen that, so I was thinking it might have got messy here too.
But I think everybody was in the same kind of frame of mind. Like, based on Friday's performance, there was no way we could go down to Tala and just suddenly turn it on and produce the goods. But first half, and we can talk about the injuries aside as well as a side point, because obviously you mentioned James Clark, big huge miss. And then there was that's sort of compounded by a pile of injuries on Monday night then in Tala too. But the first half, when you're down the bare bones, you look at the bench, and obviously we have a very, very young bench, academy players coming on, and the first half performance was excellent, absolutely excellent. Adam O'Reilly I thought was superb. Yeah. Liam Boyce getting his first start for since last August, and obviously got a great goal. James McLean coming back in the starting lineup sets him up, but Boyce had a lot to do for the goal, didn't he?
Unbelievable header.
It was super header, but if you just look at his movement there, that's what you're going to get from him. And he doesn't have the legs that he maybe did have in his early days in his career, but he's still got that movement, that intelligence, and around the box and stuff.
He was never a piss, turning a piss. It was always up here, 5 yards ahead of everybody else.
And he just drifted in, and he was in the perfect spot. great start, and obviously Adam Riley had hit the crossbar before that. It was just that I think Rovers were a bit stunned, weren't they?
Well, they were, and it was one thing we were actually talking about, me and Gareth, we were over watching the Argentina game, and we were sort of saying, Rovers haven't had any big notes over the last couple of years, to be brutally honest. Like, Shelburne won it, 3 years ago? Rovers won it last year. Now, they took the foot off the gas, and look, when I say they haven't had the high notes, we're not criticising Shamrock Rovers, they're still the best team in the country. But I'm saying from previous years, previous even leagues and competitiveness, where a couple of teams might have been challenging them, they don't need to get out of second gear times, and that's the way it's looking at the minute. Just looking at the league table, you're sort of going, right, well, at the minute, St. Pat's have 2 games in hand, they're 6 behind, so they're probably the team, right, maybe Bows played the same amount of matches, they're 7 behind, it's really Pats. Pats is the only team that can, now don't get me wrong, Dundalk are sitting 35 points, Rovers are in 44, and Dundalk have 2 games in hand, you've that, Dundalk's they're a young side, they could lose players too in this window, there's talk of that, but from Derry's point of view, you're sort of thinking, right, let's get going now. But they didn't really, the second goal is the massive thing. If you got that second goal, you could have maybe killed it off. Now, don't get me wrong, Rovers had their chances. Eddie Beach made a big save from Noonan twice, actually. First time Paddy McLean made a poor back pass, he didn't have it at all virtually. And then, unfortunately, Adam O'Reilly, then another poor sort of, I don't even think it was a back pass, I think it was just misplaced pass. And then Noonan was on, but again, it was Eddie Beach. So Rovers did have chances. But Derry looked really sharp in the counter-attack. Yeah. And that's what happens when Derry play your Bows, your Shells, your Pats, the big teams. You're going to hit them in the counter.
The space on behind
and them big teams give you the time to play in it. And they're, they have the players to do it. And they done it, as I say, for long spells. And Monday night, you were definitely a lot more pleased.
I think they ran out of legs then. Obviously, the injuries, you had Markey coming on and then coming off. And I think it's Achilles, is it?
Tiernan says, fair play him for being on the bench and then coming on because he's
and Winchester, I'm sure, wasn't ready to come on. Had to come on. And,
I would say so.
He's been struggling too, so that's not great. It's not in terms of the bodies that we have there, and you're playing boys with injuries, and you're gonna run out of legs at the end. And the Rovers, who their subs, they came on and they've a tendency to bring 4 on, doesn't it? The long go, and you're just looking at them going,
this is what we need.
That's sick.
He brought on 2 title winners which set up the goal, McGovern and Aaron Green, who love scoring against us.
And I know Winchester was booked just before that, so he probably would have expected them to do a wee nice wee professional foul there, but he couldn't touch him.
Yeah,
and it was a nice move. It just perfectly timed and way to pass.
Lovely first touch by Green to get away from Conor Barr and then bang.
But they could have came on, and came on strong at the end. I think, there was, I think for Derry, and as Tiernan says afterwards, if you had said them beforehand, keep bearing in mind where they're at, and the squad that they have. It's stand bare at the minute, they would have snapped their hand off for that result, that 1-1, and especially when they were coming on strong and you don't have that experience on the pitch. It was a great result then, just to hang out. But in terms of the overall picture of it, it's still, it's we haven't got that elusive one again, from the Bulls game, so it's another two without a 1 over the weekend. 2 tough places they go. You can't gloss over that fact, but for me, I can't use it as an excuse. I can't let them use it as an excuse that you're done on the ground in terms of bodies, because that for me is totally down to the manager and the club for either. You can say that it was the players' decisions that those players went before the window opens, but it's left you short, and it's just maybe if you kept them about and they don't want to be there, then it becomes a bad atmosphere or whatever, Kev. So maybe they had no option that way. But in terms of overall picture, why are they looking to go? They're looking to go because they're not getting played, or they've been played in the wrong positions, or they fall out of favour, or they fall out personality clashes or whatever it is. So, and that's something that you as a backroom staff, you have to keep on top of and keep everybody pulling in one direction if you want to do anything.
Well, this is it. It's great to see the 2 young lads coming on, Liam Kelly and Terence Doherty coming on, 15-year-old. It's phenomenal. Bringing them two on's great. It's great for the academy, and they've been in and around the squad. And look, we hope they've successful careers at Derry, so there's no doubt about that. But before a ball was kicked this season, the squad that was assembled, you were up challenging. Terence Doherty and Liam Kelly weren't mentioned.
No.
You know, they weren't going to be part of the picture from Derry City fans. And that's just to say no disrespect to the two lads who done well when they come on. I might add, they done, and it was great to see them coming on. But you're right. You know, you're letting 4 poor players go out the door. Then there's question marks over right where's Alex Bannon.
Yeah.
You know, these type of things you just don't know, and it's one of these situations where like the squad that you may assemble, they've left before the next window's open. So you can't even bring in a boy like Andy replace him. You can in a couple of weeks' time, but you've a couple of games since that. You've obviously Galway, Shamrock Rovers, then we'll obviously get on to Drogheda.
Yeah.
But you 3 matches before a window opens. That's just insane.
And it's not as if you haven't spent a fortune of a budget. They assemble this squad that everybody thought was title contenders, you know. So for me, you can't just use that as an excuse, like the fact that we're now, this is the way it is and we have to suck it up. It's this can't happen again. You know, it really can't. You're in a position where you have to throw on like 3 or 4 guys that potentially aren't ready. Like I'm not saying like I know people will be like going, it's a positive thing. At least we're seeing academy.
Yeah.
You know, the production line there and coming through. But as you say, like that wouldn't be the case if they had a full squad, like, and they were going for titles and stuff.
Yeah, and the squad were all itching to get in. One boy came out to get in, you know. So that's not the case.
No, but you know, we can't be too critical because it was a great performance, and you know there was so much positive they picked from that. Hopefully, like you know, we'll as you say, we'll get on to Drogheda later on, but hopefully there's a wee bit more of a selection headache for Tiernan. But at the minute, I think it's just the squad the team picks itself, like, because of and for once, you know, maybe that's a good thing.
Well, I know what you're saying. You're hoping he's got a selection headache. I don't think he will.
No.
I don't think Richard's going to be. You know, I think if anything, you're more likely going to be Dara Markey. And definitely Kevin DeSantos. Like James Clark is a number of weeks from what we've been told with a hamstring issue. So, you know, that's 3 boys that I expect to be not involved on Friday night. James McLean went off, but look, it's James. We expect James to be playing then, and you get him then. But Liam Boyce, who hasn't played, you know, first start and these type of things. But Liam, it's a case now. You're going to have to suck it up and see. We need you to get in. You need to play, because this is the way it is at the minute. And getting on to Liam, I spoke to him after the game down at Tala on Monday night when he got his first goal. So we'll listen to Liam Boyce here now. Liam, obviously delighted to get your first goal this season. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, obviously from a personal point of view it's massive. Just been disappointing sort of to be so close. It was one day before the first game of the season I got hurt, and just to come back and the first start back to get a goal, it's obviously massive, but more importantly just to help the team. It's the hardest thing to sit and watch games and not be able to sort of have an input and help people get through games, not even just playing, just sort of talking and trying to get people sort of into the game. And yeah, it was just massive for me personally, and hopefully can build on it.
That's just about to say, getting the goal, getting out in the pitch is one thing, but getting the goal has to give you confidence.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's sort of, that's what you want. You just need to keep getting in the right areas. I've sort of been linking up with play and sort of trying to help us get up the pitch and be a platform. So it's just good that James whips in a good ball and I'm in the box, and usually it takes a couple of chances when you come back from injury to get a goal, but I think that was probably my first chance, and yeah, it's just good to get a goal.
And obviously 2 teenagers then coming on this season, and you remember that yourself, having a debut. It's great for the 2 lads coming off the bench.
Yeah, it's massive. I think George, he was actually joking, me and James went off. I think it's combined age of about 70 plus, and I think they're about 30. They're younger than me, the Gar, their age of the Gar, but yeah, it's massive, especially come to a place like this against a team like that and put in the shift. And as I said, they came on, all the energy, it sort of gave us a lift, and unfortunately you conceded a goal at the end. That would have been even better for them, but yeah, it's a big congratulations to them getting their debut, and I don't think the standard dropped when they come on, so it's looking promising.
Obviously you know yourself, Friday night wasn't acceptable. Tiernan says that. He's had a plan of performance. He's done that. Was it something the manager says, or did you get together and say, or did you just know yourself?
Yeah, I think obviously we had talks after the game, but I think personally, like, it obviously does hurt after games. We think we should be winning them games, and sort of they give them 2 goals, and obviously we tried to fight back at the end of the game. But yeah, we owed it to ourselves and the staff and the fans to go out and put in a good battling performance, and I think we've done that. Obviously it's the end of the game where you get a counter-attack goal to get them behind our midfield, and to be fair, then it's a good finish across the keeper. But yeah, if we keep putting in battling performances like that, I'm sure we'll be fine.
And obviously coming to the champions gives you that sort of confidence ending out, carried on to go into Brandywell against Drogheda.
Yeah, I think that's the big message. We need to do it no matter who we're playing against. We need to put in them fighting results, and it doesn't matter who you're playing or where you're playing, you need to be battling like that, and hopefully with the players we have, then our skill and talent will come out on top as long as we put in that fighting performance.
And just finally, you've just played in the Tala pitch. It's a bit of a billiard table. You get back to the Brandywell, that's by all accounts a bit of a billiard table. You must be looking forward to it.
Yeah, the pitch was unreal tonight, and I think the first half especially we did sort of have control. You know they're going to have good amount of possession, but I thought the first half after we got a goal, we did pick and choose our times to keep the ball, and hopefully our pitch is as good if going by pitches it obviously is. So looking forward to playing on it and packed a full house with all the excitement with the new pitch in Europe coming up. So yeah, it'll be a good game to play in.
There you are, Simon. He was obviously first of all delighted to be back on the pitch and playing, and even more delighted to get the goal. And he knows himself. He just wants to. Hopefully that's him kicking on now. Like.
Well, it was like, am I right in saying it's his 30th appearance for Derry, like, over the 2 seasons, which he's obviously frustrated with, like, because as he said there, like he was ready to rock at the start of the season, then picked in, he was knocked back in, and that's as a guy who has experience and his age profile now, like that's. You just want to be playing football. You want to be making an impact, especially when the team's struggling. They score goals, and you're starting going, and it's alright. They kind of watch from the stands and give a wee bit of advice here and there, but you have to be amongst it and leading from the front, like quite literally, like, and he's seen, as we talked about there, like that bit of guile he's got on around the box, and his hold-up playing will be good too, but he's our only striker now, and with James Clark, we're doubts over his fitness as well too. We're going to, as you say, be very reliant on him, like, but it's great to have him, man, because he's a great personality around the place, and he's a guy that you want to be, if you're in a fight, you want him in your team, like, for that.
Well, he's always been great, with the younger players and talking to them about, strength, how he plays as striker and stuff like that. I always remember Sean Patton mentioning him.
That's right.
Before he made his move to Reading. But he's a lot of time, and even Boyce would say it himself. He talks about talking to younger strikers, telling them what he's been through and what you should do, what type of runs, and that's invaluable to have a player like that in your change room, like.
Yeah. Well, so and obviously we went from Tala, as your old phrase, like a billiard table game, like, and going down into the Brandywell now. We're all big return. We've been talking about it for months, and we've seen drone footage and pictures of it, and I'm sure people have gone up the cemetery, looked down, and have a wee joke at it, because it is stunning. I know you were there over the weekend. Like,
I was having a wee look at the shop, just basically to get ready for the shop for Friday night. And
stunning.
It is, like, no doubt about it. And all the sprinklers was on too, and it was just, you'd be just like, this is like a proper football stadium, proper football club, you know what I mean?
Well, the guy who was very much heading that project, the project manager of that, of Hayden Turf Care, Richard Hayden, I got to sit down and chat with him this week. He's obviously very excited. They see the final product. They were doing wee bits of tweaking with it this week. I know the guys are training on it too, but we sat down and had a wee in-depth chat, so we'll have a listen to what Richard Hayden says, what we can expect from the Brandywell on Friday night. Well, we promised you a guest, folks, and I think we've got a good one here now, and especially very timely upon our return to the Brandywell and the new pitch. It's the project manager for the Brandywell project, Richard Hayden. He's also the principal consultant at Hayden Turf Care. What a guy with a vast amount of experience and vast amount of knowledge, and some fantastic stories that we're hoping to dip into here today. Like, so, Richard, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast.
You're very welcome, Simon. I'm delighted to be here.
I know you're a busy man. I think you're over back home or back at the home office in Yorkshire at the minute, are you?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
there's a lot of
I have
travel.
a lot of travel, and yeah, we've got a lot of the Brandywell was the first of the big pitch projects to start this year. Currently, I have one down in Bournemouth at the moment for FC Bournemouth at Vitality Stadium, so that's about halfway through at the moment, as well as some training pitches over in Wrexham. So it's all go. There's four or five other jobs on the run as well, so it's our peak season at the moment. There is a peak, and the Brandywell
Aye.
just came out as the first rabbit out of the hatch, you know.
Brilliant. Well, so you're dealing with Philip O'Doherty and then you're dealing with Ryan Reynolds and on the other hand, like,
Yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
queer,
Yeah.
it's a queer double there.
Yeah.
But
You'd want your thinking cap on for both.
I'm sure you're kept on your toes. But in terms of the Brandywell now, because we're as I say, we're all looking forward to getting back in. It's the Celtic Park, and you had a hand on improving those facilities too, which I'm sure that Derry GA were
Yeah,
delighted with. You know, they got
absolutely.
a
And
better pitch in return.
it was great. It was great because we worked hand in hand with Derry GAA, and both the management and staff were so delighted because ultimately their pitch and facility improved as a result of it. And yeah, it was touch and go now when we were there in February, March, and there's such a cold weather and everything else. But look, a lot of work there from Martin Gallivan and Thomas Ashmelin as well. They did a great job in pulling it through, and they worked day and night. And they're great. It's great to see.
Yeah, I was speaking to Stephen Barker at the last game at Celtic Park, and he was delighted with it. That was the only thing he had asked for was that they get a pitch, an improved pitch in return.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. Stephen was so helpful to the whole thing, and I met him there at the open day, and he was so delighted with how everything was working out. But it also put the spotlight on the pitch, and that's what we're there to do. You can build the most fantastic stadium, you can build great facilities, but the world looks and everyone looks at the pitch for 90 minutes. They look at the infrastructure for three, and that's the most important thing.
well, are you looking forward to it? Are you excited about it? Are you nervous? You just sit back on those occasions and just watch everybody else admire your handiwork.
Look, yeah, I mean, it's always an important part to see players interacting with your pitch. And ultimately, I'm going to be watching carefully and player surface interaction, ball surface interaction. Done a load of tests on it last week, to certify it's ready for play. And indeed, the team will be doing a light training session on it this week as well before the game, just to familiarize themselves with it. Look, I know every ounce of stuff that's gone into it, and I've done this over 1,000 times in my career, so I'm not nervous. But look, at the end of the day, your work's going to be judged by everybody too. It's not just the players. Nowadays, in comparison, say with the early part of my career, now you got social media, you've got other people commenting, and if people, so you have to be prepared for all that as well. But I'm looking forward to it, and I think it'll sail through nicely.
Well, it looks. I've seen photographs and drone footage, and it looks spectacular. It really does. Like, where do you think this ranks? I know you've done a lot of projects,
I
but
mean,
I think you said,
it's
yeah,
interesting you
I
say it
think
looks delight great because me and Martin we're not anywhere near happy with it at the moment. We're
really.
trying to just we're on the phone maybe 3 times a day. I'm only off it to him there now, and we're managing the whole we're managing the whole thing, kind of micromanaging now at this point, down to the last minute. But yeah, look, we're getting there. But where it ranks, oof,
Because I know
I'm
I know you said you've
guessing.
never built the same pitch twice, and all those
Haven't,
pitches
and
that
that's
you've
the God's
you know,
honest
so
truth. And like it would be a very easy job if you could just copy paste to move on to the next one, but quite the opposite now in terms of how that works. So I certainly look at. I suppose I didn't know an awful lot about Derry before I done the job. Apart from the fact that I was a deep southerner from Kilkenny and I grew up with a small black and white TV running in the background telling us about all the problems of Derry in the 80s, I suppose. And my first time to set foot in Derry was actually when went up to meet Philip and Patrick Simpson. And wow, I just there's something about the place. The first thing was I went into a pub called the Blackbird and had a meal there. It was the best meal I had in 4 months, and I traveled for a living. And the small things like that kind of matter. And I said, Jesus, I said that was a fantastic meal. And I like my Irish music. And again, and I often travel to Galway. I do all I because I travel so much for my work. I spend my holidays in Ireland. And I usually travel to Galway, Killarney, and I said to my partner, I said, I've got the next place now. We're going to travel to Derry because the music, fantastic and all that. So I suppose I kind of fell in love with the place probably before I fell in love with the Brandywell, because I
Yes.
said this is a kind of a unique place, and ultimately then, when and working with Philip and working with somebody who's achieved so much, I really enjoy it. I mean, I've worked with the top athletes in the world. I've worked with the presidents and the secretary generals of FIFA. I've worked with, Olympians. I've worked with top footballers. I've worked with businessmen, and to add Philip to that list of people was important because I'm always trying to learn from these people as well, and when you're
Yeah.
interacting, you're learning all the time. And, I'm one of these people where at this point in my career, I think I go through every week, and at the end of the week, I think I know less than when I started, because there's always something that'll come up and you say, geez, I didn't think of that.
Oh, well, that's it. In that game, you're problem solving all the time, I'm sure. And as we said, like it has its own problems that you have to solve. We'll go into more detail about the Corinthians Stadium as well and what you had to do there and those kind of problems and that you found solutions for. But the Brandywell, did it have? I know logistical issues with the war starting and getting products and stuff like that, and getting transport. That was a wee bit of a teething problems at the start, weather wise. What was the big issues, the main
Yeah,
things
I
that
suppose
hurdles that you had to
like we,
overcome?
we we started the project in November, and we have a set series of stages that we go through. So and we tried to close off as much questions and as much risk as we progress through each stage, to the point that it's like a series of gates we go through. So we do stage one feasibility study. When we're happy with that, we go through that gate and close it, and then we go on to the next piece. Then we deal with the design, the specification, then we go through that gate, we close it, we go on to the procurement, etc. So when we started the project, in terms of the design, obviously to design, it's not a very common scenario to convert synthetic turf back to natural turf. So we had to make sure all of the systems all collaborated with each other. So we were putting in a new soil profile, which basically had to fit into the existing drainage system, tying in all the levels. Quite a lot of design work on all that. And then from there, I suppose we went out to procurement. We went through procurement and went out to I think it was 5 contractors, went through that whole system, and then appointed Patterson's as a result of that process. I think it was in January. And then we had the logistical challenge of getting the materials in. And we had to have the materials in to do the project in the time I wanted to do it in. And there was two aspects to this project. It wasn't just about the Brandywell, but also I was trying to demonstrate that we could build these things very fast if it was planned properly. So from there, we put a 2-week deadline on the construction. Now, technically speaking, I was also maybe hoping for a mild March, which we didn't get. But I wanted to see and put these systems. I mean, we did the world's fastest pitch reconstruction in 2008 in Croke Park, and that was in 3 days, and that was just the top. And I've done a lot of we did one in Wrexham, which was last year in 24 days, and that was including undersoil heating. So I kind of set this one at 14 days, and I said, right, this would be a record if we done it, and I wanted to see how precise we could get the resourcing and how precise we could get everything moving. And it's kind of like a an orchestra. And what's the name of the guy who does the orchestra? I think that's I mean
That's
the
you.
conductor. I'm the conductor. Now some might call me the ringmaster of a circus, but it depends. But
Well, the
ultimately,
pitch professor, I think you're known as.
exactly. So from there, and it's my job to kind of move all the little things. I mean, it's a great job. I mean, you see kids playing with diggers and tractors, and in a sandbox, and that's what I do for a job. I arrange all these diggers in a row, and I say, this is what's coming in here. I suppose at the back end, getting the materials, getting that volume of materials into place, that all came from Darcy Sands and Wexford. And again, I mean, look, we looked around the north, we looked in Belfast, and there's a couple of companies now, as a result of this, who have said, okay, we're going to put the processing power in place to be able to do this next time. Well, we did look locally at all the materials locally, but ultimately, for the perspective of quality, we took the sand down up from Darcy's and Wexford. And we have very specific requirements on sand. So it's not as simple as just say go down to the beach and dig a hole, or go down to the local quarry. It's a very specific grading curve, and that's based on player surface interaction, how the grass will grow, and its stability, all of these factors. It's based on maybe 50 years of research. So about 80% of the way through hauling up all that sand, the war hit and the diesel started to rise. And ultimately, the first challenge was that the suppliers, the hauliers to the quarries, it was a huge drive up. Like you could barely make it in a day and a half because with lorries, you have to do so many hours sleeping, etc. So that was the first challenge. But to be fair to Darcy's, they came up trumps and they delivered everything, and that was great. And then, of course, when we started, then after the last game, just the weather. I mean, we had snow, we had sleet, but yeah, I suppose the moment that I went into the site and the moment that we started moving, I saw how Pattersons were thinking. They literally moved their entire office to the Brandywell for 2 weeks. So they had their secretaries, they had their QS, they had their engineers, and they all up in the VIP room up there at the top. And that was their office for the job. And that was great because usually on these bigger jobs, someone's away, or I have to ring head office. Well, no, decisions are made. And simple things, like you watch the simple things, like one of the most important things, like you have men working there, men and women working on machines, and they're starting at 7 in the morning or working till 8 or 9 at night in the dark. That's dark to dark. Yeah, they have to get fed, you know. That was a very important thing. Like they all had to be fed. You couldn't say, so all that aspect was all, and you're always watching that very, very carefully. Because if fellas start getting tired, if fellas getting hungry, if fellas are going off site, it gets very messy. It's very, very disciplined group of people. So they work literally day and night right through the project. And then of course we had aspects such as the irrigation that came in with very specialist tanks to get approved from the council in terms of water and legionnaires and all that. And but it definitely worked very, very well. It worked like anything. We had plenty of challenges along the way, to meet, and there's plenty of change management in any job, and managing change is something I do fairly well. Like you never know it all, and what I would say is, when it comes to change, we have to be flexible. And there's adjustments that we do throughout the project to keep the thing moving and to keep the thing moving forward. So from there, we seeded it. I think we seeded in day 12, if I'm correct, and it was a huge achievement. But the weather was atrocious. I mean, it was like 5 degrees, and that was the bitterest thing in the tail for me in Derry because, I've worked in Scotland, I've done Celtic, I've done Rangers, I've done them all at some point in my career. And growing grass that far north is hard work in March, April, and obviously I've grown grass in Russia and St. Petersburg, so I mean, where we have no sunlight in winter. But probably the thing that caught me, and indeed when Martin Galvin came in, and Martin has been the groundsman there, and he's going to be retained now by the club until November. I mean, Martin has 40, I think he's got 45 years experience growing grass. And Martin had been out in Ukraine and Russia for me over the years. And Martin did, we speak every day, maybe twice a day sometimes. And the climate there in winter is hard work to grow grass, and that was what probably the bit of thing. I went into it with all ambition, thinking we were going to have a mild March. You know, where I'm from, if you don't get your spud sown by St. Patrick's Day, you're late. But there'd be no spud sown in Derry on St. Patrick's Day, I'll tell you that.
But it's even the one, doesn't it? Like, the one factor and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Where
and
you're
Martin mentioned that in the
speeding.
open day, like
Mm.
there's a huge
Yeah.
wind and it comes off the foil and it swirls in the
Mm.
stadium, and that yeah, and we have the best irrigation system money can buy, and yet even it does affect that, you know, particularly at grow in. I mean, we're over the grow in now, so it makes no odds, but that was a bit of a challenge, and again, overcome thankfully, because I like to think. I try to surround myself with people that are better than me at most things. So basically, if you surround yourself with good people, then the answers will generally come, you know. And with Patterson's as the contractor, with Andy Burbridge in irrigation, with Martin on the growing, you know, all very, very experienced people.
The timeline was very congested, like in terms of like getting everything done and working against all those factors, as you know, those mitigating circumstances. But was it a record? Well, like in terms of from start
Look,
to finish?
I do think so. I mean, look, these things are not never very rarely officially recorded,
Yeah,
but certainly in that length, you know, and if you look at some of the footage, that I'm sure you've seen that time lapse video,
yeah,
and you look at that of all
yes,
that kit and all that plant. I mean, Patterson's literally cleaned out their yard, and every bit of plant that what they had was on the job. And it was great because I've shown that video to other contractors since in other parts of the world. And I said, look, if you want to do it quick, this is how you do it quick. And you know, there would be a mindset, say, in mainland UK, in say England, where contractors would spread themselves amongst 5 jobs during the peak closed period of, say, the Premier League. And as a result, we have to build pitches in 7, 8 weeks.
hmm
But my preference is always to build the pitch faster and give the groundsman longer for the pitch to grow in, you know,
yeah.
and the longer it has to grow in and bed in, the better the experience of that first game is going to be.
So from just to get it right from start to finish, when you sort of like signed off on it, Richard, like I know things are ongoing as well and
Mm.
it has to be maintained and all, but from we were happy they sign off on the pitch being ready to play
Yeah,
on. How
yeah.
how long was that?
Off the top of my head, it's 20 weeks.
20 weeks.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's impressive, isn't it? Like
The whole
it's
thing,
by
yeah,
your
yeah,
standards even.
yeah.
That's very
Let me see. We went in. I have to go to my diary. You have to forgive me now because ultimately I have a lot of projects running. So you've got 5 weeks in April, you've got 4 weeks in May, and you've got another say it's probably 16 weeks in total.
16 weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. And in terms of like you mightn't be privy or did well, I'm sure you are, but you mightn't want to sort of reveal this information without consulting Philip. But in terms of the estimated value and the value and the costs, because obviously there's with this any kind of construction, there's rising costs and different things that you haven't really estimated for, you know. But in terms of what it costs for what we have in that product now, can you give us any insight into that or?
Look, I mean, like I think we were about 1.35 in total, and we didn't have any like when you're dealing with people like Philip, you don't have any unforeseens. You know, you make sure you have your
Yes.
homework
Yeah.
done, and you make sure that you can stand over everything, and that was kind of the policy that we went into. You know, so there was no extras, there was no surprises, and any surprises we had, we dealt with them as a team, and that's kind of the way we try to do things, you know. Things happen like I do private works a lot. Probably 70% of my work is private, maybe 15, 20% is public works, and those kind of public works systems work a little bit differently, you know.
Yeah.
But like when you've got one person paying for it and you've got a boss, then you know it creates a different aura about your job, you know. And you know, unfortunately, sometimes when you're working in public systems, you're almost fighting the system half the time. You know, the system encourages contractors to delay and to make more money and have what we call compensation events and extras and all this. And you see these roads projects, and we have a great example in Dublin of the Children's Hospital, which is the most expensive hospital in the world now. Still not built, still not commissioned. And as somebody who's used these contracts, I do a lot. If I shake hands with someone and say, right, you're going to deliver for me, when it goes to straight waving a contract with anyone, you've lost already. Everyone's lost. The contractor, consultant, project manager, client. So, and I got that feel from Philip when I met him first, was that how he done his business. He looked straight in the eye. That's what I want done. Shake hands and move on. And that's the way to deliver projects, not with
Yeah,
pieces of paper waving at mad lads saying it has to be 3 millimeters, not three. You can
yeah,
communicate with people what you want. The paper is important, but the connection, the communication, that's more important. And
yeah,
being there on the site. You can't manage these jobs from teams, or like you have to be on the site, and you have to you can't really bullshit these guys. Someone's sitting in a dozer and they're grading something. Unless you've sat in that dozer and unless you know what you're talking about, you need to be really careful going near these guys. I call the dozer guys the honey bears. You don't touch them unless you have to.
yeah. Yeah.
Grumpy
And
as
that,
hell,
and
but they know what they're doing.
we'll go on because that is your background, obviously. Like, and we'll go on that in a wee bit more detail now, if you don't mind. But
Hmm.
before that, in terms of um what the product is when we go on and we see it on Friday night for the first time, the pricing of it also. You were saying that basically this was you get more enjoyment, more satisfaction out of these kind of jobs because they're obviously you're in Ireland.
Hmm.
It's the community that's benefiting. And
Absolutely.
if you can talk about that, because I thought that was a standout line from yourself, and it was like you were passionate, and it seemed like an honest line like from yourself. But also, I know it's a lot of money, but it's affordable. It's affordability for your grassroots
Hmm.
clubs, the League of Ireland clubs, and things like that too. And
Well,
that's what's going to improve facilities all around the country if they all invest in this kind of thing.
absolutely. And as a sort of a natural turf. A champion of natural turf, if you call me that, right? I do both natural turf and synthetic turf because the way the world is, in certain circumstances, synthetic turf is necessary, whereas training facilities, underage facilities, etc. But when it comes to elite sport, I don't believe synthetic turf has a place, and I think we've proven that in the Brandywell. They hated the synthetic pitch even from the day it went in, and for me to be able to turn that around and have that on my CV was as important as a World Cup because the natural turf industry have spent so many years fighting global chemical corporations who are behind the synthetic turf. And we're trying to explain that if this pitches are managed correctly, if the correct technology is used, and we keep on getting these pictures up of flooded pitches of grassroots mud bats of fields, and look at our nice new clean synthetic turf pitch. But the reality is athletes don't want to play on it, professional athletes. And I work in Premier League clubs, and I've been in scenarios where we've had 3 feet of snow on pitches, and they will sit and wait till the snow is shoveled off the grass before they'll train on synthetic turf. So that's important, and for me it was an important sort of milestone in my career to be able to replace one and show that it could be proven, number one, and number two, it could be done at a fairly accessible cost, because I know it sounds like a lot of money, but ultimately the life cycle of that pitch now is quite a long life cycle. Whereas you get into a synthetic turf pitch, it's starting to fail after year 8, 9. You're looking at a full
Yeah.
carpet replacement. So life cycle over about 30 years, we work out the same, you know. And to have players like James McLean coming from Wrexham, where I did their pitch last year, and now, when we've got this here, it means a lot as well for the club because it means they're going to be able to attract better players, and that factor and that question is going to be removed. And for me, and also, yeah, it's home. It's the start of this. Going to be a big, I'm writing a natural turf guideline for the FAI. I've been the FAI consultant since 2006, and I've gone through thick and thin with them. We've issued guidelines. I did the first guideline back in 2008. We're updating that now, and it's going to be launched in the next couple of months. And there's a real, you're starting to see other investors coming in now, like just like the UK leagues, you're starting to see external investment coming in here to the League of Ireland. And just watch this space. You're going to see 4 or 5 of these go in the next 5 years, and then it'll go like it'll it'll be like the Premier League in the UK, even the Championship. It's 95%. Well, Premier League's 100% hybrid turf. Um, the League One champion, right down to
Yeah.
the most basic leagues now. They're all getting hybrid pitches. From my perspective, that's it. Legacy is important, and the likes of Derry, that's a legacy project because that's the first of these. And I suppose to just look to take it back to Derry again, like to look at the interest of all the local people in this. Like we were working there day and night, lights on, everything else. Wasn't one person on that street was giving out about that.
Yeah.
They were all behind it, well, certainly if they weren't giving out to me. And, because I have done jobs where, you'll be accosted in the street about stuff like this, but the community feeling around that stadium is huge.
Mm.
And then, to take it up into the GAA as well, and it's just this infectious thing that, and it's a feeling, and I know Martin moved up there, and he's decided to live up there now till November, and then he
I think
goes out to
he
Berwick
likes
again. He
he likes
enjoys it.
Mealy's. He
Yeah.
says Mealy's.
And he loves a few pints. He loves the banter. He loves the crack, and it's great. And I love it. And it's. I'm really looking forward to heading out. I'm going back up there on Friday, and
Yeah.
yeah, really looking forward to it.
You couldn't give the team talk for us by any chance, just on that adversity and coming back from it because they needed it at the minute.
I think Tiernan is well versed in that. Look, and as I say, the great thing is, I am an expert in pitches and player surface interaction,
Mm.
but the actual tactics and game itself, you know, uh, I've attended and I've sat into 3 World Cup finals, and I'm not sure I could even tell you. I know Spain won the one in 2010. I couldn't tell you the score, and it's like, and I've been in World Cup finals and I've been there at 80 minutes and said, right, 10 minutes to go. I'll head out now and I'll get out ahead of the traffic, you know.
That's unbelievable. That's
And
unbelievable.
then fellas outside and then bloody cut your throat for the ticket. But as I
Just
say, I'd be trying to get home. If I could get an earlier flight home, I would.
That's on a football podcast here. I don't know how that's going to go down, Richard. But
Yeah.
but just to finish, Sam, and just a passing interest, the World Cup now. You have no, sort of work with any of those pitches that are being like used around,
No,
Mexico or
I
Canada.
I decided in my the last tournament I was involved in was the Russia World Cup,
Mm.
and I did the Euros. I did the Euros in 2016 in France, and generally speaking, the tournament space, if we call it that, and the tournament pitch thing, became very crowded, and lots of people started getting involved in it, and ultimately, as a small business, and indeed having a young family, I just took the decision. I don't want to put my kids through being away where I'm away for 2 or 3 months a year. I don't want to be getting the phone calls on a Saturday. Like the World Cup, it was described to me one time as a huge caravan, and it just, and it rolls from city to city. And there's very few people stay involved with it for any more than 3 or 4 cycles. It'd be the most I would have ever seen people. There's some people there now that are very senior that would have been involved, but they were only junior when I was there. And it has its toll. It takes its toll, and you have to go away from your family, but also away from your clients. Can you imagine ringing someone like Philip O'Doherty and saying, "Sorry, I can't visit the Brandywell next week because
Mm.
um I'm out in the World Cup." That's not going to go down very well, because this is his World Cup,
I don't
and
want to cross. Well,
and that's the long and short of it. Like you kind of have to balance the long term. And the way I looked at it was, I've got all this press, which they since have totally closed down on, because ultimately that would be considered now as what they call ambush marketing, but it kind of was ambush marketing with a smile, you know. But ultimately, um, you know, I have the ticket stubs from it.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the experience. It's on my CV. I was the first. I created the systems that are sort of that have. Look, it's taken 16 years to get to the point, and so far the pitches look great. You never know with tournaments. You just never know. But just I've spoken to a few people out there, and I've had a few texts back and forth. But otherwise, yeah, let the next generation carry that baton now. I'm high,
And just a
I'm high
closing
mileage.
word again. High value for definitely no argument there. But just a closing sort of words on the Brandywell and what we can expect on Friday night, Richard, and where it's going to. What have we got for Derry City
So
Football Club?
So for Derry City Football Club now, we've got a hybrid reinforced 100% ryegrass pitch. So that's going to be mown to exact UEFA standards. And basically what you're going to see also is that we'll be wetting the pitch and the balls should skin along the surface quite nicely. From my own tests last week, and indeed from when the players familiarise themselves, what you'll hopefully see is that they will have to adjust their footwear, because this is more like a Premier League pitch than it is like any of the other pitches around the country. Like, so
Right.
we've even, I mean, around Ireland, plus Shamrock Rovers, the one in Tala, they can water their pitch before a game. And I think that's the only one of the few that has a pop-up irrigation system. So we're going to be watering this pitch. You'll see the ball back spinning. And I'm hoping that players will adapt to that quality of pitch, and basically we'll see a great game.
Brilliant, Richard. Well, I can't wait for one. I know there's a real buzz about the place. Regardless of recent results, there's going to be a full house on Friday night, and
Yeah.
I look
And
forward to
and
seeing you. Well,
and
thanks for
and
your time.
absolutely, and I'll be there. I hope to bump into you. I've warned Martin; he's out mowing day and night now. I said, I said the drone photos are going to be taken today and tomorrow, not on Friday. I said, so make sure them lines are straight as a die.
Always thinking ahead, Richard. Thank you very much for joining us. That
Lovely
was
to
a
talk to
brilliant
you,
chat.
and I hope
Cheers,
you
Richard.
enjoyed it. All the best
Thank you
now.
very much. Bye-bye. There you go, Kevin. Richard's a great character, and his stories. You get something last name for hours. He did a wee extended piece with me that we'll put up on the Journal Facebook for anybody that wants to have a listen to it about his World Cup experiences in more detail. Been to South Africa, Brazil, and Russia, and then in the Euros and France and places like that too, and Russia. He's a vast experience, and like he's genuine too. We spoke about this before when we had a wee video of him featuring in the podcast, but the passion he has for Derry as a city, and then for the Brandywell project,
Yeah.
and the community and stuff like that, and knowing that it's going to benefit the community. And he had a wee word they say about the people on around Lomore Road and stuff like that, when the lights were on, the diggers were on, and all the machines were going in the middle of the night, and not a complaint was made to his door anyway. The council are getting but it's been all good vibes, and it looks stunning, absolutely amazing. And I think he was saying there it's like just over almost 1.4 million. It's taken. They've been within budget. So
that's great news.
Basically all the different the hikes and
that's certainly the Derry City way. Not
taking just a leaf from the merchandise book,
yes.
But so they've done stunning work, and like the interesting thing they were saying there too is the players are like, I know they'll get on, they'll train them this week, but
I think they're going on Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday, so he was very careful, they say, about the footwear, because this is Premier League standard pitch, and it's going to just zip across, especially when they get those sprinklers on. The players are going to have to really consider their footwear as well too. So James McLean maybe get out all his best ones, the best Nike and whatever he wears, but it's going to be interesting to see how they adapt to the way it plays like that as well too. So it's really interesting from that technical sort of side of things too.
Well, to be fair to them, they played really well, as I say, at Tala, and Tala is a stadium. The minute you come in, you just go, this is a proper football stadium, and Derry City is certainly getting that way. There's no two ways about it. I know there's a few other things that they're hoping they possibly get in there. Talk a scoreboard or talk upgrading the lights and stuff like that there. So all that, you're getting up to that sort of elite standard, and that's where Derry and Philip in particular wants they tick them, tick the club, particularly off the field regarding the pitch and all in the stadium. But you're right, like, if you say he's an interesting character, he's got so much going on, but you're right, he sees sort of Derry City as a proper community rather than, the big World Cups and Euros and all these type of things. Derry City is a proper football club and the heart of a city.
Well, that's what he's saying, is that's going to be his legacy, is these kind of things, because I know like he's very big on making it, we say 1.4 million, but it's affordable in terms of like, teams in the League of Ireland clubs or Irish League clubs potentially, so lower tier England clubs, like he's at the Vitality Stadium and this weekend, so he's got about 4 or 5 projects that he's juggling, but he's going to be at the Brandywell, as I said there. But it's fantastic what they've done and what they've, and a big shout out to Philip O'Doherty, as they said there, and Patrick Simpson, but he was very keen to work alongside Philip O'Doherty, and he mentions him in the same, like he's sort of like Russian and Ukrainian oligarchs, and he's like, worked under like the Russian government with Vladimir Putin, things like that. He's been on a private plane with Fabio Capello when he was England manager, and Sepp Blatter. He names all the names,
all big wigs.
So all the big wigs, and then Philip O'Doherty. He was very keen to work alongside him as well too, and he just had nothing but praise for Philip and what he's done and what he's put under this project. So I know all this kind of negativity around the club that goes on, with things that are happening on the pitch, and maybe like what we see is like a mismanagement of certain things and structures, but when it comes to this here and improved infrastructure that Derry City have, and the city has, this is a showpiece stadium, like, we're going to get to see it on Friday night.
Well, this is something, like, even looking at the Derry City Football Club have put up the wee video montage of from they lifted the 4G pitch up. The great 2 or 3 minute sort of clip went round, and it's just, you just see it, and then you see the finished product. You're like, it is unbelievable what has happened. Like, it's just, to say Saturday, it was lined, it was cut again. The nets were to go up on Monday. I know they actually did go up Monday because the riggings was wrapped up inside the merchandise shop. So Bert Martin had spoke to me last night in Monaghan on the way back. They say, the shop's clear now, Kerry, you can get in there and stop bothering me. And we both laughed. But so the riggings and the nets up, and as I say, even on Saturday, no riggings or nothing up, but the pitch was lined. It just looked like, give me a wee go with that type of thing.
Well, what better kind of fixture would you want on it than Derry City and Drogheda? And that's what we...
that's maybe not. That's not. Folks, it's not what I'd be thinking. But from Derry City's point of view, it probably is. And that's no disrespect to Kevin Doherty or Drogheda, because I know Kevin was there.
Yeah, be listening to this.
Well, he was there. He was there last night, so he waved up to myself and Eric and Gareth McGlum before the game. Look, what it'll be, we Derry and Drogheda, will they get her down and pass it on the slick surface? That'll be, well, watch this space type of thing. Like, and to be fair, we're talking about the sprinklers and all this here. By all accounts, this glorious weather we're having here, folks. I don't want to be no wee bit doom and gloom and Michael Fish, but apart is the end on Wednesday. It's to go back to lashing on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, blah blah blah. So we might even need the sprinklers out, but someone tells me if I'm Philip, I'm putting the sprinklers on.
Oh, I'm actually saying, I want to see a water show.
I want the app to press the button to turn on the sprinklers.
Well, they're up and about then, like, there's no excuse for it, like, but I think, I know there's a lot of outside visitors coming in for the match as well too, so there's a lot of excitement about that, and bringing them back. It was good to get that kind of result, and a wee bit of positivity ahead of going on that, because the defeat in Tala would have just been a bit of doom and gloom and a hard sell, but I'm excited to see it. I really am excited to see a wee bit of football being played on it, like, and but it's come on. If you look at like what they've done with the North Stand, even the Mark Farren Stand, hopefully there'll be improvements to the South End Park Stand soon. There's talk of that the fourth stand, and in the future as well too, in the near future potentially. So it's got the real makings of a and I'm for one glad that it's a traditional home with the Brandywell as well too, and we haven't moved out of that. We're just making that you know,
That's the best. It's going to be a proper football
proper
stadium.
stadium, like,
Yeah, and it's looking well. I think there's still discussions with the council about trying to lock, stock, and barrel, buying everything or securing a long lease. For the Brandywell. I think that's talks are ongoing, but by all accounts are positive, as they've always been from day one. But you're right, there's so much going on behind the scenes that unfortunately boys, all they do is rightfully look at the results, crack up, unfortunately, which has been recently, apart from Monday night. But there is, folks, a lot going on behind the scenes that we know about, that our fans know about too, speaking to the likes of Bert Martin, Lawrence Moore, and whatever else. There is so much. Paddy Simpson doing a lot of work behind the scenes, Will Phillip. So look, there's a lot going on, there's a lot to be positive about, and it's just, you can't wait to go back on Friday night against Drogheda. There's no two ways about it. It's back to the Brandywell. Used to be Sunday at the Brandywell. It's Friday nights at the Brandy, Friday night lights at the Brandy.
We would go into more depth about the Drogheda game, I suppose, but we don't want Kevin Doherty, if he's listening, they get any sort of insight on the Derry team and the fact that we don't have a team.
No, well, I think Kevin Doherty's fine, because he was there at least 75, 80 minutes last night, and he's seen it. Alright, so there's the Santos hamstring, he's out. Darren Barkey, he was a doubt and he's out. Kieran went, well, I played up maybe. So no, I think Kevin Doherty knows. I think he's well versed, to be honest with you. It is a bit of an extended version. Obviously, we had Richard on as well too, and we're glad to sort of get that wee insight from him as well too. But I think we could sort of wrap it up, Kev. I know you're very eager to get your prediction on, because we were so good at our predictions last week again. Seriously, if there's any bookmakers taking our bets, they're laughing quite literally. You just don't know. This is the problem with Derry. It's just Jekyll and Hyde. Awful on Friday, very, very good on Monday night. Spurred what Derry fans have been crying out for, performance at Tala on Monday night, which, if they play some patch, would be the same type of thing. This. Drogheda is always an old stumbling block, but I'm hoping, because the whole Brandywell factor and all that, and you're getting ready to go, and yes, you're down numbers and players with injuries, but as I say, maybe one of the young teenagers again can maybe come off a bench and get a winner or something. Would be great for them, be great for the club, but I think it's going to be tight. There's no doubt about it. Drogheda up and down themselves, but I'm actually going to go with 1-0 Derry. You'd love to get a 2-0 loss, but I just worry about the goals and where they're going to come from.
Well, Liam Boyce is back, I suppose, so it's going to help, but and Mickey too's probably due a goal. I just see them like both teams just zipping all about in this pitch, and I think I'm going to go like a 3-1 Derry. Just very optimistic.
He's very. You know how he's doing this, folks. He wasn't in Galway and he wasn't in Tala, so this is where he's getting the optimism. While I've been the both for them, like, I'll just take 1-0 now.
Well, in terms of being the bare bones, but no, I think the occasion, and the pitch, and hopefully there's a good atmosphere. I think Derry could sort of step up to the plate here. The thing is, we need to get their goals early, because we don't have that strength and depth. They sort of be hanging in there towards the end. So. No, I'm going to go for a Derry City one. It's been a while since I predicted one. I am.
You get off the fence, isn't it, Ricky? Well, folks, that's us for this week. Join us next week, where hopefully it's after a Derry City victory.